the casket is being lowered into the ground. Someone approaches you as you're standing there in need of consolation, and they might say, I am so sorry for your loss. But God just needed another flower for his garden. Or, I'm so sorry for your loss, but the Lord needed another star to illuminate the night sky. Or, I'm so sorry for your loss, but the Lord simply called them home to be by his side. Perhaps you've heard these lines of logic used when someone's dealing with that tragedy of losing a loved one, or perhaps you've been on the receiving end of that line of comfort. But well-meaning as those may be, they're actually very problematic in what they're implying. And what they're implying is that God is selfish, cruel, and unloving. Well, how so? Well, in the Bible, at 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 26, death is described as the enemy of mankind. Death is your enemy and mine. And isn't that the case? We fight it every chance that we get. We have a natural desire to continue living. When we're in dangerous situations, we try and take all proper safety measures so that we avoid harm. But we try and keep ourselves in good health with a balanced diet and a routine of exercise. And when we are sick, we often turn to medicine, whether holistic or traditional, or perhaps look at what's the latest scientific discovery that can help us beat whatever we're trying to cope with. And what about when we do lose a loved one? The numbness that may be felt, the pit in our stomach, the aching that we experience during that time of tragedy. Yes, death is our enemy. So then if God were to use death to rip loved ones out of our lives for such selfish reasons, then wouldn't God be our enemy too? Now, the Bible describes Jehovah as the Father of tender mercies, the God of all comfort, the God of love. So does that make sense that he would be our enemy? No. Rather, Jehovah is our ally in the fight against that enemy death. At various places in the scriptures, Jehovah promises that death will be brought to nothing, swallowed up forever, and done away with. Yes, Jehovah has put things in place, the provision of the resurrection, for us to experience the complete victory over death. So as we go through this discourse today, we're going to look to answer 3 questions. 1, what is the resurrection as used in the biblical context? Why can we be sure the resurrection hope is real? And how does faith in the future fulfillment of that Bible hope benefit us today? So the first question, what is the resurrection? Simply put, it is the raising to life from the dead. Now, while not originally a part of God's purpose, he has made the provision for that in order to fulfill that original purpose, being brought about the need for this by Adam and Eve's sin in the garden, which introduced sin and death to the human family. It's been estimated that some 109 billion people have died throughout the course of human history. And by means of the resurrection, Jehovah is going to correct what never should have taken place. Now, those who have passed away fall into one of 4 categories, and we're going to discuss those 4 categories. That first one are those who are in line for the heavenly resurrection. Now, these are ones who are limited, as the scriptures say, to the number of 144,000, a diverse group of men and women from all walks of life and backgrounds throughout the entire course of human history. Why such a wide range? Well, these ones hand-selected by Jehovah to rule alongside his Son in heaven are tasked with helping the human family be restored to its perfect condition. How loving that in that provision, Jehovah has seen to it that there's going to be someone ruling alongside Christ that understands what we've been through, what we deal with, what we have to cope with on a daily basis. Now, what about the second and third groups? Well, in order to identify those, we're going to turn in our Bibles to Acts chapter 24 and verse 15. This is where the much larger category of mankind falls into one of these two categories. And I have hope toward God, which hope these men also look forward to, that there is going to be a resurrection of both the righteous and the unrighteous. So did you catch what those two groups were? The righteous and the unrighteous. What's the difference between them? Well, righteousness is simply acting according to God's standard of right and wrong and doing what is correct. So the righteous that are here talked about are those who faithfully served Jehovah while they were alive, choosing to walk in a course in harmony with Bible principles. That includes faithful ones of ancient times, such as we read about in Hebrews chapter 11, or even faithful ones of modern times that we may know personally, those who finished their course, but they did so loyally serving Jehovah to their last breath. Now, the unrighteous is just the opposite. They did not live according to God's standards of right and wrong, but not by choice. They simply did not have sufficient opportunity to come to learn about Jehovah and make the changes that are required by those professing to be servants of his. So when they're resurrected, they'll be given the opportunity, along with those who died faithful, to make the changes necessary. Yes, they will be able to look at the instruction that we're given at that future time in paradise and act obediently in accord with what Jehovah wants. And at that time, be able to earn the prospect of everlasting life. Now, we said there were four categories. Those who are being resurrected to life in heaven, immortal and incorruptible existence. And then the two categories that we discussed here, the righteous and the unrighteous. So what's the fourth category and who falls into it? Well, to identify that, we turn to our second scripture. It's found in John chapter 5, in verses 28 and 29. And here Jesus is speaking perhaps to Jewish leaders of the time who are planning to persecute them. He is giving a rebuttal witness here. It says, "Do not be amazed at this, for the hour is coming in which all those in the memorial tombs will hear his voice and come out. Those who did good things to a resurrection of life, and those who practice vile things to a resurrection of judgment." The phrase we want to hone in on is memorial tombs. Now, if you have the electronic version and you click on verse 28 and the study note there for memorial tombs, it says that the Greek verb that this word is taken from signifies to remember or to remind. It carries the implication of preserving the memory of the deceased person, and in this context suggests that the person who died is remembered by God. So those who are resurrected that are righteous or unrighteous, their memory of their existence, their life course, is preserved in Jehovah's memory. But there is a category of people who have not earned a place in Jehovah's memory. Why? Well, like the righteous, they had the opportunity to learn about Jehovah, but they chose not to follow his course. They practiced wicked things. See, they proved themselves not worthy of life in a paradise earth, so they will not be granted that chance. So those are the four categories. Now, who decides who falls into those categories? Well, that, of course, would be Jehovah. And we don't know who is in which category, but we do know one thing, that Jehovah is going to perfectly balance his mercy and his righteousness as he makes those judgments. Now, can you envision that time? That future is not far off. That paradise hope is soon to come. Our loved ones will be back. And take a look at the image on the screen and listen to what one brother said when asked about the resurrection. He said, the resurrection means something that, frankly, we can hardly even imagine. It means welcoming back so many people who may not even have a family to come back to. It means reaching a level of elation and joy that none of us have ever felt in our lives. It means I absolutely, positively have to be there. Is that how you feel? Do you feel that need to be here, to welcome back your loved ones? To be able to greet the faithful ones of the Bible record that perhaps their example helped you reach this paradise hope? Have you thought about who might greet you if you had to be resurrected? We don't know who was resurrected when here, but we do know that there's happiness and there's joy, and we want to experience it. So what did we learn in this first section? What is the resurrection? It's God's promise of restoring to life those who have died so as to fulfill his original purpose. Those found worthy of resurrection will either enjoy a heavenly existence or have the opportunity to prove faithful and enjoy life in a paradise earth. So then why can we be sure that this hope that's held out to us, this hope of the resurrection, is going to be a reality? Well, we look at what Jehovah has expressed in his word and what he's already done to make moves toward that end. See, Jehovah's love for people is evidenced in the price that he paid to make the resurrection hope possible. Turn, if you would, to John chapter 3. And we're going to look at verse 16. John 3:16. It highlights both how Jehovah feels and what he's done. It says, for God loved the world so much. That's the world of mankind in need of redemption. He loved them so much that he gave his only begotten son. That's in reference to the ransom sacrifice, which we'll be commemorating 1 week from today. But two things right there that give us hope for what's to come. Jehovah has expressed his love for our need, and he's already paid the price to open up the prospect for our everlasting existence. That great love that Jehovah has is what's driving what Job said there in Job 14 and verse 14 and 15, the yearning that Jehovah has. References say that the Hebrew word that's the basis for yearning is one of the strongest words to express the emotion of longing desires. Jehovah loves us, and he loves our loved ones. And as much as we want them back, as much as we want to greet them, he even more so wants to restore them to life. How beautiful a thought is that to contemplate, that the source of life and light, Jehovah, wants to, has already paid for, and has the ability to give us back pieces of our heart that have been ripped away by the realities of this system. Think about that for a minute. The source of life and light, Jehovah God, has the desire, has paid the price, and wants to restore to life our loved ones, his loved ones. And he most certainly can do it. His memory, his power is unmatched, it's unlimited. And think of a sitcom where a child's pet dies. What do the parents often do? They try and replace the pet before the child figures out they get something that looks the same and try to pass it off. Jehovah's not going to do that. He's not going to pass off a shell or a knockoff of our loved ones. They will have the same memories, the same personality, the same beautiful qualities that they did before, but now in an environment of perfection. How wonderful for us to think about that time. What else has Jehovah done to make sure that this future hope is realized? Well, he's entrusted the responsibility of overseeing it to the best personage in the universe to handle the job next to him, and that's his son, Jesus Christ. Turn, if you would, to John chapter 6 and verse 40. John chapter 6 and verse 40 says this: "For this is the will of my Father." This is what Jehovah wants to do. "That everyone who recognizes the Son and exercises faith in him should have everlasting life, and I will resurrect him on the last day." Jehovah wants to do it. It's going to happen. But did you notice what you and I have to do to keep ourselves in line to receive the benefits of that? It says that everyone who recognizes the Son, we have to acknowledge the role that Jesus Christ plays in Jehovah's purpose and exercise faith in the ransom sacrifice that took place to open the way for us to enjoy the eternal benefits. Now, during his earthly ministry, Jesus proved that he had the God-given ability to carry out this assignment. There's a number of Bible accounts that we could look at that illustrate Jesus' desire and ability. For instance, you may think of Luke chapter 7, verses 11 through 15, the son of the widow of Nain. Jesus resurrected that young man. Or last night, our Bethel brother took us through the account of Lazarus there in John chapter 11 and thoroughly showed us everything that we can glean from that account. Well, let's take a look at one more account. It's found in Luke chapter 8. And we're going to start with verses 41 and 42. You may be familiar with this account. Luke chapter 8, 41 and 42 says this: "But look, a man named Jairus came. This man was a presiding officer of the synagogue. And he fell at the feet of Jesus and began to plead with him to come to his house, because his only daughter, who was about 12 years old, was dying." So here, this father, his only child, is not just sick, but on her deathbed, and he's doing everything that he can to be sure that her situation is fixed, to not have to deal with the grief of losing not just a loved one, but a child. What happens further? We continue, we drop down to verse 49. And there it says, "While he was yet speaking, a representative of the presiding officer of the synagogue came, saying, 'Your daughter has died. Do not bother the teacher any longer.' On hearing this, Jesus answered him, 'Have no fear, only have faith, and she will be saved.'" Doesn't that highlight what we read in John 3:16? Exercising faith. Here Jesus restates that. Only have faith, and she will be saved. Verse 51 continues. "When he reached the house, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, James, and the girl's father and mother. But people were all weeping and beating themselves in grief for her. So he said, 'Stop weeping, for she did not die, but is sleeping.'" Yes, when the time comes for the resurrection, it will be as easy as waking someone from sleep for Jesus, by means of Jehovah's power, to restore our loved ones to life. And it won't be like when we wake up from a nightmare suddenly and we don't know what's going on, or someone roughs us up and wakes us up in an urgent manner. It'll be like a gentle nudging, perhaps a faint calling of that one's name as they slowly regain consciousness. It continues here. We notice in verse 43, after Jesus says she's only sleeping, at this they began to laugh at him scornfully because they knew she had died. a lack of faith is being displayed here. What happened as a result of that lack of faith? Well, if you look at the parallel account in Matthew chapter 9, it says that the doubters were sent outside. So they did not get to be privy to, they did not get to witness this miraculous restoring to life, this resurrection. A lack of faith, a lack of acknowledgement led to them missing out on the blessing of that experience. We continue there in verse 54. But he took her by the hand and called to her, "Child, get up." And her spirit returned, and she rose immediately. And he ordered that something be given her to eat. Well, her parents were beside themselves, but he instructed them to tell no one what had happened. Again, if we look at the parallel account in Matthew 9, it says that talk about this spread into all the region. So word got out. Think about the time when we experience the global resurrection. The buzz of information that's going to take place as we find out about different individuals around the globe who've been restored to life. As we hear about friends, loved ones from distant parts of the earth being called back. How exciting a time is that going to be? Are we going to be beside ourselves with joy? Yes, we will. But in order to be there, in order to experience it, what is it that we need? It's been highlighted in these last few accounts that we've read. We need faith that it's going to happen. And we need strong faith at that. As we watch the following video, note what helped the two who were interviewed to build faith in that resurrection hope.
I was never very religious. In university, I majored in biotechnology, where I became immersed in the theory of evolution. To me, the Bible was just a Western cultural artifact, not at all based on science. Then I came across the Awake magazine. I was surprised to find that the articles it contained about biology and other scientific topics were very logical. So I began to question whether such highly complex biological systems had really come about on their own. For a car to work properly, hundreds of parts need to be assembled in the right order. Even the slightest change can cause the car to malfunction. But biological systems, such as DNA, RNA, and proteins, are even more complex. I started to feel that it was illogical to believe that they had come about by chance. And so I began studying the Bible with a new perspective. Around 3,500 years ago, the Bible revealed the fact that the earth is suspended upon nothing. However, scientists only discovered this about 300 years ago. As I discovered more of these truths, I became more convinced that the Bible could not have come from humans and that it is in harmony with science. As I gained confidence in the Bible, I also began to trust God's promise of a resurrection. Moreover, the Bible says that Jehovah will long for the work of his own hand. There's no doubt that Jehovah has both the will and the power to resurrect those who are in his memory. Having a strong conviction in the resurrection brings me great hope and comfort.
Ever since I was young, I attended church regularly. I grew up believing that when people do good things, they go to heaven, and when they do bad things, they go to hell, and that the soul of a person who has died continues to watch over and guide their loved ones. When my husband died in 2018, it was very difficult for me. One day, a woman who was one of Jehovah's Witnesses visited me, and she comforted me with the hope of the resurrection on earth. However, considering the beliefs that I had, I still wondered why my husband was not guiding me. So the sister shared Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verses 5 and 10 with me. I learned that there is no immortal soul, and that our dead loved ones don't feel anything. She explained that God's original purpose is for people to live forever on earth. That truth from the Bible set me free from the false teachings that I was taught in church, And because of that, I decided to get baptized. Jehovah is a very merciful, wise, and loving God. Acts chapter 24, verse 15 says that Jehovah will resurrect even the unrighteous. I know that then I will see and be together with my loved ones again. I look forward to teaching resurrected ones who still don't know about Jehovah and helping them to serve Him.
So, were you able to pick out the things that helped our brother and sister? Our brother was from a scientific background, very logic oriented, and as he discovered that the Bible supported and acknowledged certain scientific understandings, even doing so before men discovered these things, it opened his eyes to the need for a change in perspective, which led to learning greater Bible truth and getting greater confidence, trust, and faith in all of the Bible's promises, including that resurrection hope. And our sister, who grew up religious, had an incorrect view of what happens when we die. But she said that she was set free from false teaching by learning what the Bible really said, which opened the door for her to gain greater understanding and faith in Bible promises. So what did we learn in this section? Why can we be sure that the resurrection hope is real? Jehovah paid the price for us to gain the prospect. He has a yearning fueled by his unmatched love, the undoubtable ability, and has entrusted this matter to his Son, Jesus Christ, who has proven to also have the desire and ability to fulfill it. Now, what are the benefits that can come to us now by building strong faith in the future fulfillment of this Bible hope? Well, we have greater meaning in life because we're looking ahead towards an everlasting existence. We are not blinded or consumed by the things that are taking place here in the last days of this system because we know what lies beyond the darkness. We avoid that short-sighted view of life that's focused solely on pleasures and material things now, but rather we're building for an eternal enjoyment under kingdom rule. We gain courage when we face life-threatening situations, knowing that no matter what the trial, no matter what the illness, no matter what the situation, there's nothing that can be done to us that Jehovah, in his unmatched love and unlimited power, cannot fix. Nothing that can be taken from us that he can't give back to us. Here's a big one. We find comfort when we lose someone in death. People of the world that don't have this hope set before them, don't realize that it's available, are plagued, troubled, consumed with the negative emotions that can cripple someone in the event of such a tragedy. But note what a few of our brothers and sisters have said when asked about the resurrection and what it means to them. The teaching of the resurrection has grounded me. With eager anticipation, I look forward to the time when Jehovah will undo and reverse all the evil that the devil has forced onto the human family. This hope truly is an anchor for the soul. Another, it slows down my tears, calms my broken heart. There is hope that very soon I will embrace my family members who are asleep with confidence that I will never have to let go of them again. And the last one line. The restoration of all the love and pieces of my heart that Satan has ripped away. Do you have that same feeling? That same eager anticipation to be present, to witness the fulfillment of this grand Bible promise? Yes, as we continue to dwell on that, we draw closer to Jehovah God. And we thank him every day for making victory over death a real possibility. For those who are in attendance today, whether this is your first time at a Christian meeting or you've been going for many years, everyone is invited to join us next Sunday, March 24th at 7:30 to commemorate Jesus' death and learn more about the hope of everlasting life. Now we invite you to turn to one final scripture. It's found in the Bible book of John, chapter 11, and verses 25 and 26. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who exercises faith in me, even though he dies, he will come to life. And everyone who is living and exercises faith in me will never die at all. Do you believe this? That's a personal question that we need to ask ourselves every day. Is the reality of the resurrection hope real to us? Do we believe in what Jehovah is holding out to us? Yes, we want to continue to reflect on what the resurrection is and what it means to us personally and for all mankind. Continue to meditate on the reasons that we have for confidence that this hope will soon, very soon, be realized. Take time now to build strong faith in all of the Bible's promises, including this one that will be the grand climax, the culmination of what Jehovah has to offer for us. May we strive to be there for the start of this beautiful eternity and achieve the complete and permanent victory over death thanks to the loving provision from our Almighty God, Jehovah. And may we keep in mind the words of our opening song, we can live forever. It's worth all endeavor. God's promise is faithful. His word will come true.